They thought they could steal a creek, silence a community, and break a veteran who refused to bow down. What started as petty HOA politics spiraled into fraud, corruption, and sabotage until one man fought back with truth, law, and the power of water itself. This isn't just a fight over land, it's a battle for justice, legacy, and survival, and it all came down to a single moment when the floodgates opened. I didn't say a word. When they handed me that eviction notice, I just slid the 1923 water rights deed across the table and watched 35 McMansions instantly turn into lakefront property. The Willowbrook Estates HOA thought they could steal my grandfather's farm while I was deployed in Afghanistan. These smug bureaucrats built their picture-perfect suburban paradise on stolen land, complete with tennis outfit Karens patrolling in golf carts. What they didn't know was that I'm an Army Corps engineer, and that little earth dam on my property had been waiting 45 years for someone dumb enough to build downstream. The arrogance was unbelievable until the spillway gates opened and their luxury development got its first taste of real flooding. And let me tell you, watching it happen was going to be more satisfying than anything. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below, because you're about to see the most satisfying HOA takedown ever, powered by federal water law and gravity itself. Let me introduce myself. Jake Morrison, 34 years old, Army Corps of Engineers, and the third-generation owner of 47 acres of prime Texas land just outside Austin. My grandfather, everyone called him Pops, bought the place back in 1955 when Austin was still a sleepy college town and barbecue joints outnumbered tech companies 1,000 to 1. Pops was the kind of man who believed in taking care of the land and the people on it. In 1978, he built a small earth dam on our property. Nothing fancy, just solid engineering designed to collect rainwater for the cattle and help out our downstream neighbors during dry spells. The Army Corps even helped him with the design. Pops always said the back 40 acres would someday be worth something, but for us, it was just rolling hills where we ran cattle and where I learned to hunt. Then came my 2 tours in Afghanistan, where I specialized in water management and infrastructure. Turns out, building wells and managing water flow in a war zone teaches you just how precious clean water really is, and how fast people will fight over it. While I was on my second deployment, Pops passed away. The property went into a trust managed by my well-meaning but overwhelmed sister Sarah, who lives in California and knows about as much Texas land law as I know about surfing. She hired a local property management company, Lonia Land Services, to handle the taxes and upkeep. The bills got paid automatically, but here's the problem. Sarah never actually checked the tax assessments. Big mistake. Enter the villain. Margaret Maggie Thornwell, 52 years old, president of the Willowbrook Estates HOA, the kind of woman who drives a white BMW X7 and treats tennis outfits like business attire. She has that brand of passive-aggressive sweetness that Southern women perfect around age 45, the kind where they smile at you while they stick the knife in your back. Maggie is married to City Councilman Rick Thornwell, which tells you everything you need to know about how she gets things done. She's got a reputation for neighborhood beautification initiatives, which is just a fancy way of saying she forces out anyone who doesn't fit her vision of suburban perfection. And while her perfume smells expensive, it doesn't quite cover the stench of cigarette smoke and entitlement that follows her around like a cloud. When I came home from deployment in August 2023, I was ready to finally spend some real time on Pops's land. I drove down that familiar gravel road, past the old oak tree where I'd carved my initials as a kid, expecting to see the same rolling pastures and that little earth dam sparkling in the Texas sun. Instead, I found construction crews, concrete trucks, and survey stakes scattered across my back 40 like a suburban invasion. The crunch of gravel under my boots felt different that day, angrier. Dust filled my mouth as I marched up to the foreman. "Sorry, buddy," he said, not looking sorry at all. "We've got permits. This is Willowbrook Estates property now." I called the police. Officer Martinez showed up, but he just explained, uncomfortably, that the HOA had filed an adverse possession claim while I was overseas. Basically, if land sits unused long enough and someone can show they've improved it, they can try to claim ownership. It's an old law meant to prevent land from being abandoned, but developers and HOAs love to exploit it. That's when Maggie showed up. She rolled up in her little golf cart like some kind of suburban warlord, voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Your family abandoned this land, honey," she said, smiling like she was doing me a favor. "We're just putting it to good use, for the community." But here's what really set me off. I discovered that her crews had diverted the small creek feeding Pops's dam. The water level was dropping every single day, taking with it 45 years of careful water management that had helped neighbors through droughts and floods alike. Maggie's parting words burned in my ears. "You should have stayed closer to home, soldier boy." That's when I knew this wasn't about land anymore. This was war. The EPA had already opened a federal investigation into the Willow Creek diversion based on my initial complaint. But here's the kicker. Maggie's previous HOA in Houston had been fined $2.3 million for the exact same scheme. Federal environmental crimes follow individuals, even when they move to new jurisdictions. While Maggie was playing the victim on social media, I was uncovering the truth. Her entire financial empire was built on fraud. The HOA's construction loans were tied to inflated property values, and the banks required guaranteed water access for loan approval. If those rights reverted back to me, their rightful owner, the whole development would be financially underwater. The irony wasn't lost on me. They stole my water to give their land value, and now their own greed was going to drown them. Maggie's panic started to show. She offered me $400,000 cash, no questions asked, with a 48-hour deadline. When I refused, she flew to California to try to sway my sister Sarah with some sob story about her troubled veteran brother. That backfired instantly. Sarah might not know Texas land law, but she knows her brother. She called me laughing. "Jake, some woman in tennis clothes just tried to tell me you were unstable. I told her if she contacts our family again, I'm calling the FBI." While Maggie was busy making enemies, I was building allies. I partnered with environmental lawyer Amanda Cross, who specialized in pro bono water rights cases. Together, we formed a coalition with downstream farmers affected by the diversion. Miguel Santos brought historical records proving his family had used the creek since 887. Mrs. Chen shared photographs of her grandfather's garden from the 1940s, fed by the same creek that was now fueling Maggie's decorative ponds. The local Audubon Society was alarmed to learn the diversion had destroyed nesting grounds for several protected bird species. And when it comes to killing protected wildlife while stealing water, federal attention shows up quickly. During my nighttime reconnaissance, a habit I carried over from the army, I discovered something incredible. Pop's Dam wasn't just a simple earth structure. The original 1988 design included an emergency spillway with hydraulic gates that hadn't been opened since 1982. The hollow echo of water through those underground channels during my midnight test told me everything I needed to know. The system still worked, and it was designed for this exact situation. Controlled flooding to restore the natural water flow. I calculated the numbers. To restore Willow Creek to its original path, I needed to release 2.8 million gallons. The dam was holding 3.1 million thanks to recent rain. The math was perfect, but the timing had to be exact. Using my drone, I mapped the new home foundations against the historical creek bed. 5 houses were built directly in the old flood channel. 3 more had basements below the seasonal high water mark. And here's the beautiful part. The construction crews had built decorative creek beds with concrete and stones. They looked nice, but they weren't designed to handle real water flow. My spillway, on the other hand, had been engineered by the Army Corps specifically for flood management. Then Maggie made her biggest mistake. Her crews started pouring permanent concrete barriers to block the original creek bed. That would have made my spillway useless and destroyed the downstream ecosystem. But it also gave me the perfect legal justification for what I was about to do. The Weather Service predicted heavy September rains, perfect cover for emergency dam maintenance. As I stood at the spillway controls at sunset, reading Pop's old journal about helping neighbors during droughts, the decision became clear. It was time to open the gates. While digging through courthouse records for the 3rd time that week, I found a misfiled document that changed everything. Hidden behind a stack of 1979 tax assessments was the original agricultural flood management covenant from Pop's dam construction. The language was simple and powerful. Dam operators shall maintain natural seasonal flow patterns to preserve downstream agricultural water rights in perpetuity.